Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the March 20th, 2024 meeting to order. Ms. Cassandra.
Mayor David Romero.
Here.
Councilor Marvin Martinez.
Present.
Councilor Robert Casey. Councilor Michael Montoya. Councilor David Olivari.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And a reminder, councilors, make sure that you speak into the mic so the online audience can hear. Pro Tem Montoya will lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Casey will lead us in the moment of silence. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, approval of agenda.
Before we start, I think Mr. City Manager, you have some recommendations.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I can request, removing item 1 under section 13 of the executive session items.
Okay. Remove item 1. Pro Tem Montoya.
Also, I have a change of moving item number 5. To ask for public input.
Okay. The changes of the agenda are remove item 1 business item.
Actually, I want to motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Pro Tem Montoya, do I have a second?
Second as well.
Second by Councilor Hoover. Okay, so we had changes on the agenda. City manager recommended that we remove item 1 under the executive session action items. And then we're moving item number 5 to right after public input. With that roll call, Ms. Cassandra?
Councilor Martinez.
Yes.
Councilor Olivari.
Yes.
Councilor Montoya.
Yes.
Councilor Casey. I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, I'll give you a call now, person. Yeah, so you'll disconnect from online and I'll call you on the phone. Mr. Kennedy, do you have another mic that I could look near the phone?
Just the manager mic.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Okay,
Moving on, Mr. Mayor, to public input, we have no public input this evening. Moving to the next item, which is business item number 5, discussion, direction, and possible action on animal ordinance, chapter 118. Mr. Mayor?
okay. So on this item, councilors, I know this item has been something that, the North community has been asking for. Basically saying that the city's ordinances on animal, the animal issues that were not up to date. So, when I took the oath of office, one of the first things I did is I asked Ms. B and our legal Rocio Castellano to go ahead and get together and look at our ordinances and see how we could update it as much as we, something that B would have some input. We did also get some community input. And at this point, I'll kind of open it up to Ms. B and to Mr. Castellano and kind of, what they did. And I don't know, right now, this item is just for discussion to get the councilors' input on this. There's quite a bit of changes, and I don't know if you guys want to ask them any questions on how they came up to, some of the language that's proposed within the ordinance. So at this time, I'll open it up to Mr. Castellano.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thanks for having us. Just briefly, when we were tasked with this project, we met with Director Gallegos, and we tried to determine what areas of the animal ordinance were vague, what are some of the issues we're having in the city. We talked to some community members that brought up these concerns. So we determined several areas were either too vague or non-existent in the animal ordinance. And so at that time, we compared local municipalities. We looked at City of Santa Fe, we looked at the City of Socorro to get an idea of what their animal ordinance looks like. And it was more robust, to say the least, than what we had on the books. And so we put together what we feel is a very good animal ordinance. It gives the city a lot of authority to deal with certain issues, especially issues of unclaimed animals. After our first initial draft, we had a few drafts with Director Gallegos. We had a lot of input between the two, and we feel that we're at a very solid final draft of the city ordinance. I will highlight a few things for you that I think are fairly significant. We've added some definitions for cruelty, great bodily harm from an animal. We've also given animal control officers the ability to issue citations. Unfortunately, that was in the old ordinance, and so the city was unable, in essence, to enforce the ordinance as a whole. So I think that's also very important. Another couple of things that we added were, how does the city, how are we able to dispose of humanely animals that are unclaimed for a certain amount of time? What's the process? And unfortunately, there was no process prior. So we put together a process that the city can now follow, and if it's followed correctly, it would open up room in the shelter if need be. So I think that's also very important. We've also allowed, we also addressed some of the issues for sale of animals on private property. And what we did here was we're requiring, or would require, some kind of permit. This would give city officials, whoever it be, more than likely animal control, to then be able to enter into private property and ask to see the permit, right? This gives us the authority to see if the sale is legal or illegal. Issue citations to not only the individual selling the animal, but also to the landowner for allowing the illegal activity to continue. I think, which, again, there's another concern that was brought up by members of the community.
Mr. Castellano, I'd like to add to that. more of that issue was pertaining to the Walmart issue where we had citizens from outside the city and county, for instance, other counties, they're actually coming and selling or giving away puppies in the Walmart parking lot, which is, the city has no authorization there on the property, so it's private property. So this gives the city the opportunity to at least request they have to request a permit, and there's some liability towards, for instance, Walmart. So,
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. This would give the city the authority to then enter private property, request a permit, and if one cannot be produced, issue a citation. And if it continues, can then issue a citation to the private property owner, in this case, potentially Walmart. And what we also did too is, we entered a section for abandonment, which was also not there. So if some of these animals are being seen throughout the city, they qualify under the abandonment ordinance, the city can then take action. I think the final thing that we did that's highly important is we actually drafted a citation table. So now the city has an idea of, okay, if it's a citation for no permit, sign with no permit, this is the fine associated with that permit or with that citation. Again, prior, there was no, it just wasn't there, right? So this again gives the city a little bit more of an idea, could generate revenue to be used in how the city sees fit. But those, I think, some of the highlights in this document that I think are important. With that, Mr. Mayor, Council, I do stand for questions if any are set my way.
Okay, I also wanted to see if you could come up and just kind of give us your input, how you sat down with Mr. Castellano, and just, I don't know if there's anything that you feel that we need to hear in this, into this ordinance that you feel.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important to mention is we are also adding in mandatory microchipping of all animals in the city. A big issue we see with the shelter is that only about 10% of the animals we get are claimed, and maybe about 3% are microchipped, and that's how we find the owners. So that would be a really great way to be able to hold people accountable when their animals are running at large, instead of officers trying to figure out where they belong. They're microchipped, and that information will be accessible to officers and to the shelter to be able to reunite animals with their families, but also figure out who's letting their animals run around town causing chaos. Is there any other?
So at this time, I'll open it up, councilors, if you guys have any questions. I know it was a long document, and again, it's just to get your input into this before you bring it up to the council for adoption. Councilors?
I'll go ahead and start.
Councilman Martinez?
Yeah, I did read the document, and it's pretty lengthy. You guys have done quite a bit of work to it. Of course, I didn't know what it was prior to that. But I did notice in a few areas there that even people that have guard dogs have the responsibility of having a permit. And, those are things I never really knew about. So there's quite a bit of information in here. I just want to make sure that at one point or another that, like Mr. Castellano mentioned earlier, how do we control the population of the animals going into the shelter? I don't, there's a lot of people that tell me there's still a lot of, animals out there roaming around, cats and dogs. And I know that there's also information in here that talks about the amount of animals that a person can have. So I think that's information that needs to be explained to the city, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of animals, okay? And of course, then you get into exotic animals. There's all kinds of other things, but so much for me to understand, because number one, I'm new to understanding this. Of course, I live in an area where you see dogs and cats roaming around all day long. And I'm sure I'm not the only individual that sees that. They're throughout the city and so forth. But nevertheless, I think the document was well put together, definitely.
I'm just hoping that we have the backup to be able to support the document, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the permits, we're still gonna have to draft up the actual permits and the paperwork to go along with that stuff. For animals, if households with more animals than are permitted, because our ordinances state 4 animals, it can be a mix of dogs, cats. We also had multiple animal permit or like an over the limit animal permit. So basically, officers would be having to go in and check and make sure the animals are cared for if there are more than 4 animals in a home. And that would prevent, all of these extra animals coming to the shelter once these ordinances are in place. But also, it would make sure that the animals in those situations are actually cared for. And if they're not, if that's too many animals and it's a mess, or they're not being fed or getting proper care, then we would be able to take those animals.
Pro Tem Montoya.
So it has to be, so code enforcement now can give out citations. They didn't used to before.
How much is that?
Just to clarify, I think we need animal control.
Yeah.
Councilman Montoya, on my reading of the current ordinance, it doesn't say whether or not they could issue citation. In the draft ordinance, we did at that point give them the authority to say animal control officers can then issue a citation. But in the current ordinance, there was no language giving them that authority.
So who gives the citation?
I couldn't hear you.
Who gives the citation?
Right now?
Yeah.
I couldn't answer that, sir. I don't know.
Chief, do you guys give citations?
Yes, sir. So we do, under our commission as animal control following officers, we do issue citations. Not that the commission, animal control, code enforcement, and community services all have that authority to issue the citations. Majority of the time when it comes to animal issues, it is issued out by animal control. With if we are short on them, we'll have a community services system as well.
So if animal control goes out, gets a call, and it goes out, and he calls a police officer. The officer goes out there, he doesn't see anything wrong, or he's not a witness. How can he give a citation?
Just depending, there's ways that they do deal with these issues, whether there's a video surveillance or photos taken of the dogs at that time that are turned in as well with their citation.
And, Mr. Castello, how many community meetings did you have with this ordinance changing? That we're at?
I could answer that. It would really work public. Advertised community meeting. There was some animal advocates. We did share the draft with them. Was one meeting that I met with student meetings, and the attorney. And again, this is the draft. Get your input, and if the council feels that you want to get more community input, we can do that. Again, it's a draft, it's discussions. It's us actually putting something together that the community has been asking for. And of course, councilors, this is only one step. There's still the enforcement part that we got to deal with, but this is just adding some teeth to the language that was never in the language of the ordinance before. So it's a start.
Another question that I had is, so when our code enforcement have to show up to court, or police officers are kicking off the streets, show up to court, is that happening? And are citations really being cited and having penalties?
Yes, sir. So the officers do show up, whether it's code enforcement, depending on which court we go through. There's been several cases that we've tried recently in magistrate court just due to the severity of the crime. Most of the time when we get those kind of cases, the DA's office does subpoena everybody to those. On our citations that are issued, we do receive municipal summonses to court. They do attend. As far as action taken from court, I couldn't give you that answer off the top of my head.
Okay. And so this ordinance, I didn't see it here, but does it cover when people are driving with the dogs in their lap? didn't see that.
Yes, sure. I can find you the section. if you want.
One last question is, how are we gonna, or how do you foresee educating the public on this ordinance? Because it's, you know, it's, we're here, we get ordinances all the time, changes or new ones, and we pass the law. That's what it is. And people gotta, you know, enforce the law. And they don't, people out there don't know what the law is. So how are we gonna educate the people on what we're doing here? Because there's a lot of changes, and there's a lot of penalties. And people ought to know beforehand, instead of just putting it on the website, how we're gonna train them, or are we gonna have a class once a month, or what's gonna happen there? How do we educate the public?
So I think I can answer this. Maybe you can too. I know that's coming into the position. I know prior to me taking this office, Mayor Trujillo had allowed the Animal Care Center. We did go ahead and did put some of the ordinances in the utility bill. Of course, you know, now with the changes, there's a lot that needs to be communicated to the community. But I think that's a topic that, you know, once it's passed, an effort has to be made, right? And within the ordinance, you share with the community that they know radio, you know, radios that they need tomorrow on the radio, right? And I know there's a schedule with radio, so that with things like that, we're getting out more in the community. We have a corner page, so in those things, once again, this is just a draft, we're not adopting, you know, getting approval tonight. But once all this is adopted, then we will make that effort through the pet corner, through the radio, through he has a Facebook page, it'll be online, so I think we'll try to get every corner.
And I know, Mr. Mayor, also that we do have a problem, tech problem, people that aren't responsible for their pets. And I even asked myself a couple of weeks ago if we have a permit or a license to sell dogs or give dogs away, because I see a lot of that going on. And I found that same boat. And I got to do some pups, and I got to do something with them. You know, they were full over there, so what do I do with it? If they're full, what do I do? You have to deal of $30 a week. That's what I've been doing so far, but I'm trying to find a reasonable, responsible owner. But I mean, yeah, you run into those kind of problems. And all I'm saying is we need to educate the public as to the penalties. You know, there's up to $500 penalty on a third offense every year. I don't know who can afford that. I don't know who can afford to feed their dog. But I'm glad you came up with an ordinance that, we're trying to address the problem. And again, I'm going to refer to the RFP that we put out, or that we'll be putting out on fire losses to the FEMA. You know, this is one of the areas that probably no one's thought about, that we got affected because of the fires. Because a lot of pets were lost their ownership, and a lot of them had puppies, and now they're all over the place. There's no accountability, and I mean, some people left and left their pets behind. You know, I saw that in my rest of them. But you know, that's one kind of funding that we should also look for in the RFP. But I thank you for updating this, and I would just recommend that we find a way to educate the public on it.
Councilor Casey or Councilman Mulibani?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with a lot of the items that Mayor Pro Tem Montoya mentioned. I really think it's important that we have maybe like a community meeting, inviting people to come and we can discuss the more salient points of the ordinance, what the changes are, so that people are more aware. We need to have maybe the newspaper, and I'm glad that he is going to the radio station to talk about this, because it's very comprehensive. And, you can't just expect people to remember everything that's in it. A lot of people don't have internet access and, don't have any means of being able to read the ordinance on their own. So we're gonna have to figure out a way where we can, maybe, make everything shorter for the public instead of having all the language that's in the ordinance right now. I mean, it's an awful lot. If we can just, say, this is what happens if your dog is brought to the shelter, this is what you have to pay, this is what you have to provide for your animal. Keep it as short as possible, and something like that can go out in the utility bills from the city, or and everybody gets one. So I don't know, but I think we need to think about how we want to get the word out, because I think that's very important.
Thank you, Councilor. So what I'm thinking here is, you guys have any input towards this? I know it was a long document. We did send it out Thursday with the packet with the agenda. You guys could look at it again, maybe a couple weeks. At that point, either send your input to city manager, and from there you can share with the attorney, and he and Mr. Castellano will go ahead and try to input put in your guys' input. And then also we could maybe ask Mr. Castellano, once we get to the point of adoption, maybe just put the bullet points, so once bullet points of what the changes were. And I think with that, we're ready to put it up to the public. We could highlight those bullet points versus, I know there's a lot of language, but I think getting those bullet points would be very more efficient for the community.
I think that's a great idea. So
All right. So we'll actually turn that into a motion, just so it gives direction to the attorney to go ahead and do those bullet points. So I have a motion by Councilor Casey.
Second, please. Couple of calls, please.
So I have a motion, Councilor Casey. Would you add that to your motion?
Yes.
Please. Okay. We have a motion by Councilor Casey, second by Pro Tem Montoya. Roll call.
Councilor Olivari?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
yes,
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you guys for calling.
Mr. Mayor, next on the agenda is mayor's appointments, reports, recognitions, proclamations.
This time I just want to note the only recognition, and not the only, but I want to recognize those firefighters and first responders that responded to the fire on the Grand Avenue last week. They put themselves on the line, and the fire chief is working on official recognition on that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. This happened just last week. From here on out, when these things kind of happen, I think it's highly appropriate that we acknowledge them and recognize them. So that's very important.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to the councilors' reports.
Councilors?
Mr. Mayor, we have a long agenda, so I'm going to forego, my report. Thank you.
Pro Tem Montoya.
Yeah, I would just like to inform the public that this weekend we'll be having a dirt bike ceremony at the Rubius Park. Everybody's welcome. And there's going to be some good competition from 30 kids over to 70-year-old entries. I don't know exactly what the entries are, the entry fees, but everyone's welcome to enter the races. It's second races, 11s. We'll start at about 8 o'clock in the morning. That's the biggest part.
Thank you, Pro Tem Montoya. Councilors?
None at this time.
Mr. Senator?
Next on the agenda is our police chief's report. Yes, Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Mr. Manager. So tonight we're going to be presenting the February 2024 monthly report. Field Division, our field operations had 357 traffic citations, 9 non-traffic citations, 78 parking citations were issued, 46 arrests were made in the month of February, 5 burglary calls with 2 offensive incident reports were made for the 13 calls, and a total of 1,278 calls for service. Animal Care Center, we had a beginning number of 54 dogs, 18 cats.
Can you speak more to the rights to which your conservation use?
Yes, ma'am. With 18 cats for a total of 72 at the start of the month. We did take intake from the public, 37 dogs, 2 cats for a total of 39. We had 5 adoptions for each cats and dogs for a total of 10. Outgoing transfers were 9 dogs for the month, but we were able to relocate to other communities. We returned 6 dogs to their owners, 0 cats were returned, and we also had either unhealthy or untreatable animals, whether they came in due to being hit by car or anything that was born. Our ending shelter count was 63 dogs, 15 cats, and for a total of 78. Our information division processed 178 offense incident reports. We had 26 traffic reports with those. 497 citations were entered. 137 customers were attended to. We also had 366 documents scanned into our system, and 16 different requests were completed through them as well. We're still currently working on 2013 to 2017 reports for a construction order that we got approved in 2023. That's still currently being done as well. Our street crimes division, you can see we had an increase in self-initiated cases. We had 15 cases that were assigned or followed up on to our investigations. We had 30 self-initiated cases that were picked up through our street crimes. We made 8 arrests, conducted 1 search warrant, and closed out 16 cases for the month. Our evidence, we had 1.8 grams of meth. We had 5 fentanyl pills, 39 prescription pills, 1 firearm, 1 Suboxone strip. 84 cases were taken into evidence. We had 126 items returned from our evidence back to people who needed to get their property, whatever the case might have been, whether they're a victim or a suspect in the crime, and they were released. We also had 32 cases go to the New Mexico DPS labs, 3 cases to RCFL. 10 different requests were completed by our evidence tech. 7 fentanyl pills were in evidence, and we got methamphetamine. We had 4 informational for travels only this month. We did have 1 officer start the New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy. It's Javier Mares. He started February 3rd. Hopefully he'll finish here within 16 weeks around mid-May. So he'll be traveling every week to the Law Enforcement Academy. We have 1 sergeant attend our mid-management course in Santa Fe from February 13th to the 15th. And we also had the animal care manager who attended a training in Blue Ridge, Texas, February 1st to the 29th for the care center. Currently, we do have a big list of vacancies, and I'll go ahead and read those off. At this time, we have 2 police lieutenants for our field operations division, 1 police sergeant for field operations. We have 1 police sergeant for investigations, 1 investigator position, 1 narcotics supervisor, which would be our sergeant. We have another narcotics agent position vacant, 12 police officers, 3 communication specialists that are full-time, and 2 part-time positions that are open. We have a communications manager, admin aide, 1 position which we are currently filling. We submitted all the paperwork in, and hopefully we'll have somebody starting on Monday for that position. We have 1 grants administrator that we will not be filling, and that will be part of an organizational change that we're doing within the department. We have 2 animal control officers, vacant positions, 1 information specialist, and 1 full-time animal care tech, for a total of 32 positions. And that concludes the report.
Councilors, questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Martinez?
yeah, I guess I'm not clear on the finance administrator. What does that mean when you're not gonna fill that position? What is that?
So we used to have a grants administrator position within the PD. She did retire last year. What we're planning on doing is absorbing that position into an office manager. We do have people within the agency that are able to handle that, which will absorb those duties, and especially coming on with an admin one, it'll be a more streamlined process for us.
Mr. City Manager. Last month, I think it was 28 vacancies, now we're at 32 vacancies. I think you need to look into this. I don't know what's going on with the recruiting, the hospital, officers. I know other counties are paying like $64,000, they only work 5 days a week. I think that we can do a better job at recruiting. We're putting that as one item. But I think we need to figure it out. How we can get officers to come work for us, dispatchers to come work for us. If it's a salary issue or whatever the issue might be, we need to find out. Because 32 vacancies in the police department is unacceptable. We have probably 3 officers per shift, which really we should have like 5 at least. We try out 3 officers in one call at Walmart. And that's another issue that we need to address. Like Walmart's getting about burglary or theft going on, and our officers are spending a lot of time there and a lot of calls, and they're not providing it. They have 2 or 3 cases at a time, so forth. But I've seen it in other cities where Walmart hires officers and they take care of the stuff. I don't know if we have to rent a car, maybe we can park the car outside the Walmart, or come up with some ideas. But I think because we're so short, we can justify it that we can't be over there every day, 10 times a day. So, I would request that you look into it and see what we can do about it for next month, and see what the plan is for recruiting more officers and more staff.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions on the report?
No comment from me.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our finance report, we have our interim finance director, Mr. Dominic Chavez.
And again, just a reminder, if you guys could speak, even if you have to grab it and talk through it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the February finance report of revenue expense. For the general fund, our revenues are in at $10,664,947, with expenditures of $8,770,495 for a surplus of $1,894,452. On the enterprise fund, revenues are in at $11,059,827,867, with expenditures of $10,066,315 for a surplus of $993,512. The recreation department, revenues are in at $377,227, expenditures of $418,444 for a deficit of $41,217. Lodgers tax revenues $437,186, with expenditures of $322,510 for a surplus of $114,676. And the cannabis fund revenue of $87,898, with expenditures of $2,179 for a surplus of $85,718.
Councilors, any questions? Report.
Just like to say, Mr. Mayor, that you will approve of the finance committee.
Thank you. Next item is presented.
Moving on to our business items, item number one, request approval of resolution 24-08, the budget adjustment for the 2023 Mr. Thomas.
Mayor and Council, Finance Department is requesting approval of resolution 24-28. Revenue and expense increase to Fund 101-5400, general services, in the amount of $9,500. And this is an approval of the, for an increase to Samaritan House. Also, a revenue and expense increase to 101-5400, general services, in the amount of $20,000 for the Rodriguez Park rental to Nino Community College.
With that, entertain a motion. Councilman Uli.
Approve of resolution 24-08 for budget adjustment for
A motion by Councilor Uli, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Martinez, roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Olivari, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Moving on to item number two, consideration to approve the restructuring of the police department organizational chart by removing the financial specialist and creating the administrative assistant two position to create and add an office manager position. We have our city manager, Tim Montgomery, and our HR director, Brandon Miguel.
Mayor and council, this is in regards to having a shift within the police department where we did take Ms. June Tafoya out of the police department. She moved over to the interim director position at the senior center. With that shift though, and Harold, correct me if I'm wrong, we did move Ms. Raylene over to an interim financial specialist position until we could get the titles lined up appropriately. Ms. Raylene would serve as the manager in that role, and rather than have an administrative two position filled, we would utilize an administrative one position that's currently on the org chart.
So, if I can just chime in here real quick. So we didn't, actually move her into an interim role, yet she's still, be serving as the administrative assistant too, but she is cross-training with, Ms. June Tafoya so that she can, catch on to that role of financial specialist and, grants administrator. So going back to Chief Marcus, in talking about the office manager position, this is intertwined with this item right now.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Councilman Montoya.
Yeah, Mr. Tim, I didn't know you were going to start off the vacancy. It's up to 31 now. 32. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to consider the construction of a organizational chart and moving the finance specialist business administrative assistant position to create and add an office manager position. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Montoya.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I did kind of review the document as well, or, what was there, but in restructuring, the organizational chart for the police department, I just kind of felt in a sort of a way that maybe it should be held back a little bit, only so that we could have a chief placed in that position instead of interim chief. That's the only thing I wanted to mention, at least so that it's clear that we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, and I didn't want to really do that, but we should have taken the item properly, or I just wanted to bring this up for conversation at least.
Yeah, and I understand your concern with that, but, I think we needed to move a little bit quickly, only because we had our financial specialist move over as the interim senior center director, and so we needed somebody to step into that role. And, the individual that we're looking at to fill that role comes with an abundance of knowledge. She has 22 years under her belt. And so, you know, she's the perfect fit for that.
Okay.
So this time I have a motion by Pro Tem Montoya, and a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Wali, roll call.
Counselor Casey,
Yes.
Counselor Montoya,
Yes.
Counselor Martinez,
Yes.
Counselor Ivani.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Ivani. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to our next item, 3, request approval of resolution 2410, applying for and ensuring matching funds in the amount of $2,218,847.38, and to apply for a match waiver for the transportation project fund. We have our public works director, Mr. Arnold.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. So I'm asking approval of resolution number 24-10 for us applying for and assuring matching funds in the amount of $2,218,847.38 change. And to apply for the match waiver as well for the transportation project fund. And this is to fund, if awarded, El Creston on second phase project. Stop for questions.
Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So much, sir.
Motion by Pro Tem Montoya,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Martinez, roll call.
Counselor Ivani,
Yes.
Counselor Montoya,
Yes.
Counselor Casey,
Yes.
Counselor Martinez.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to item number 4, request to award RFP, request for bid 2024-15 for landscaping and ground maintenance to Parsons Lawn and Landscaping and enter into contract. Mayor Utilities Director, Ms. Maria Villarreal.
Mayor and Council, we put out an RFP for lawn landscaping services, and we had 2 proposers or 2 bidders. We did advertise in the Las Vegas Optic and the Albuquerque Journal. We opened in February, and Parsons Lawn and Landscaping and Franco's Tree and Landscaping both provided bids. The one from Parsons came in with overall, there were some higher and some lower costs, but overall, with the services needed, Parsons came in at the lower cost. This would be used as an auxiliary to city staff doing the work. Most of the time, city staff are going to do the maintenance that they need to do, but there are some times when we need professionals with some trees, landscaping, and we do want to beautify buildings like the customer service center. So we want to be able to use a professional to help us to maintain that. This can be used by any department in the city.
Pro Tem Montoya.
Maria, can other departments utilize this contract?
Yes.
I want to thank them very much. Never brought this issue up a while back, for approving the contract. The contractors are getting paid 3 times as much, or twice as much. So the same work that this contract will do. So, I'm glad that you brought this up to us, Maria, and I hope that, this will be a cost savings as far as our contractors in the water department.
Thank you, Councilor. And this did go before the Utility Advisory Committee, and they did recommend approval. And this could be helpful to code enforcement when they have some issues where we need to do some maintenance.
With that, entertain a motion in a second.
Motion to approve order P 2024-15, landscaping and ground maintenance, Parsons Lawn and Landscaping.
A motion by Pro Tem Montoya, do I have a second? Second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
I got Councilman Ivani on the second, just to make sure, any discussion? Not roll call.
Counselor Martinez,
Yes.
Counselor Casey,
Yes.
Counselor Montoya,
Yes.
Counselor Ivani.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Ivani. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Moving on to item number 6, discussion direction on revisions to the municipal charter, specifically on the following 3 items. 1, decision on whether or not to appoint a charter commission. 2, attorney selection. 3, charter revision or separate ballot questions. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so this item was discussed briefly last meeting. I did it because we moved, put 3 items that we need to make decisions on, so I'll entertain a motion for each one individually. We'll start off with the first one. The first one, according to our charter, this governing body has the authority to choose whether or not to appoint a charter commission. You guys want to discuss that? I'll entertain a motion again. The charter that was, I believe it was 2022 that it was approved. So it gives this governing body the authority to choose a charter commission or for us to go ahead and discuss it with, go over the charter with an attorney.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Martinez.
Yes, and just kind of reviewing some of the things that happened in the past, I kind of lean over to the ability to have maybe so many members appointed, maybe a couple of members appointed by yourself and one for each of the counselors, and as well as making sure that we have an attorney present to be able to work on this charter. I think it's worked like that in the past. There's been a number of times that people, well, actually we have a former mayor here in the audience that he was part of 2 of those charter reviews and it worked well at the time. But I know things change and I'm not saying that's the best direction to take, but I think we should at least entertain an opportunity to see that. I don't know how the other councilors feel, and I want to make sure that we're in agreement, of course.
Thank you, Councilor Martinez. Councilors, Councilor Casey, you guys have any discussion?
I would just like to see the entire charter reworked, because when you do it in pieces, there's too many inconsistencies within the charter, which is what happened this last time. So I think in order to do it right, we need to have a charter commission and be very selective in the members of that commission. And I can't remember if the current charter still has a stipulation of the number of days that, or months, timeline to finish the work of the commission. But I don't think that the folks that were selected last time had ample time to do the work that they needed to do, and that's why we have some of the issues that we're having now with the current charter.
Thank you. And pertaining to the question that you had, I'll let Ms. Cassandra answer that one. The timeline?
Okay.
Or
Yes. So, Councilor Casey, councilors, there is no timeline specific in the charter that's mentioned. The timeline is according to the Secretary of State's timeline. So that's the timeline we had to meet. And I believe that last election in 2022, we didn't have enough time before that was due. So that was the issue at that time. Yes, right around that time frame.
I'm going to disagree. I think this governing body got a little bit to do a job and to represent the people. And I think that we have to do that. I think we're the experts in this field right now. And I think we'll move a lot better, a lot faster. And I'll say that last time we elected, appointed a commission, there was plenty of time. It was a year and a half. And we gave them a timeline. And we expected them to meet that timeline. And we really made that timeline. The clerk had to, has a timeline also to report to the Secretary of State. And the public meetings really hadn't happened yet. So I think that the city, with the city attorney, really good. The clerk, the city manager, and mayor and council, and come up with what needs to be done. A lot of it is pretty much already done for us because of obviously to the river election. And the Secretary of State pretty much has said that for us. There are a lot of changes. But I would be in favor, I would make a motion to let mayor and council proceed with the new city charter.
Councilman Kulibali? So, Councilman Montoya, is that a motion? Yes. Okay, so the motion, right now, that Councilman Montoya is the governing body, basically be the charter commission. I have a motion by Councilman Pro Tem Montoya, but a second. Let me state that. A motion by Pro Tem Montoya, governing body, be the charter commission.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kulibali, roll call.
Counselor Libari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
No,
Counselor Martinez?
No.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we have a tie. I have a motion by Counselor Montoya and a second by Counselor Libari.
I vote no.
Motion does not carry.
Mr. Mayor, she's in the first, type, reproducer.
Thank you, yes. I think that was the second.
Mr. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint a charter commission, and of course, an attorney to go ahead and work on the city's charter. I know we have to meet a deadline, I understand that. I think a 7-member, seven members of that unit would work best. And I would say that each of the councilors appoint one individual, the mayor would appoint 2 individuals. And I would think that would probably be best and work best that way. I just hate to go back and put questions on a ballot that people don't read and it fails almost every time. When you start having to read too much language into something, I think people just freak out and just back up. They don't wanna follow through with it. So I'd like to entertain that motion for a charter commission.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Senator?
just to mention, the charter commission consists of 7 members. It's already listed in the charter specifically to how many such.
So a motion by Councilman Martinez, and a second.
second, could you, tell us before we vote what, the city clerk said?
So basically, Mr. Sanders said that, so Councilor Martinez had discussed about how many members he was suggesting, but the charter specifically says if we do a charter commission, it already says 7, and who will propose. And just real quick, Mr. Sanders, could you state for the public what those 7 members on the appointment?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The charter commission shall consist of 7 members. 1 member shall be appointed from each council district and shall reside in said district during the period of review. 3 members shall be residents of the city, appointed at large, with equal representation among the districts to the greatest extent possible. The mayor shall appoint 6 commission members, including the district and representatives, subject to council approval. The 7th member shall be recommended by the municipal judge for appointment by the mayor and approval by the council. The commission shall select 1 of its own members to act as chair.
Thank you. So first, Councilman Martinez, second by Councilor Casey.
Counselor Montoya?
No.
Counselor Casey?
Yes,
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Libari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item I specifically put this, the attorney selection. The past two charters have been, first one developed by Mr. Randy, and the last one was. Randy. So he's the one that has worked on the previous two charters. Now we do have two other options, but the more important thing is that the charter, you know, working on the charter, the contracts that we have now with the attorneys is only 20,000 each. And I believe that this, Mr. Montgomery, if you kind of detail this, that we think that this will entail quite a bit of money regarding each attorney, so this might be something that we, one of the decisions is, do we want to continue with Randy, or do we want to go with somebody neutral that has never, of course, each attorney is going to have to, you know, follow through section on how we develop the new charter, but we continue with him, or we, let's just be.
So Mayor, at this point, we had multiple awards to attorneys. We had 3 different attorneys, each at 20,000. We have been utilizing each of those attorneys through this calendar year. We're going to need to go back and look at balances of the options of which attorney can be available. To the best of my knowledge, Randy has not been utilized as much at this point. He could be a viable option. Mr. Lehman, if you can speak to that, if you know purchase order balances. For our attorney, Randy, I don't know if he's been utilized as much for the day-to-day business, and if he has a large enough purchase order balance to serve as the attorney, or if we're going to have to open up the purchase order balance to make it higher for another attorney.
So at this time, I don't think the balance is gonna sustain that amount. Or a larger amount, I should say, because we've already utilized them quite a bit. So at this time, we would probably have to go out for an RFP or RFP.
Or specifically for the charter. Yes. And then I guess the question here, and where is with an RFP, can we discuss that? So I think the solution here is just whether we go for an RFP.
And we can review, because currently we do have 3 contracted attorneys, but they're on a limited balance in each PO, and so we've been utilizing all 3 of them already. So I think we're too close to being that close. Plus their contracts expired at a certain time. So that's another thing.
So I guess we need more appropriately decide what we need.
Why can't we just do an RFP? We can do all those other things. Maybe when I get there, I get it. Yeah. What it doesn't jeopardize the other fund. So I will make a motion for an RFP. It's looking at for charter review.
Motion by Pro Tem Montoya, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Councilor Casey. Roll call.
Counselor Divari?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
The next item, I know you discussed it, maybe, but I want to make sure that we get a motion and action from the governing body. The two items here, do we want it to be charter revision, or do we want to separate ballot questions as we did in the past couple times with weren't as successful? Pro Tem Montoya. Pro Tem Montoya.
And what's the partnership with the security agency? We can all work on it all the time. We have to be looking by bullets.
Counselor, I did reach out to the Secretary of State's office and I haven't had a response yet.
Well, my point was, my question was, there's probably 5 pages of characterization that needs to come out. And maybe 5 bullets that need to be added. So I'm not sure if if the Secretary of State will allow that many pages to be printed out on the ballot. And until we find out that answer, I don't think we can move forward with this question.
So, Mr. Mayor, can we, so we can put separate ballot questions. I know the last time when we had the 19, she did say it might be an extra cost to us if we went over, if we have to have a second ballot, but we could do that. Or do the one question if we replace the entire charter. But I don't know what the cost would be.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Senator, but when we got it adopted, that's basically what we did, right? It was one big revision versus what we had prior.
Initially, with the home rule charter, yes,
One question.
correct.
And the reason I say that is because if you break it down into bullets, and people vote for some and not for others, you're gonna still be in the same room. If you do it all at once, it's either yes or no. It's to the benefit of the public to vote yes on it, because if they want their government to proceed, forward, that's the solution to it. If you break it down in bullets, and you ask people to vote on each bullet, some will pass and some won't, and it will still be the same vote.
So, basically, so here, let's just make that decision here. Do we want to separate them, or do we want to go the division? Which, on the ballot, it would just be based on the current charter. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Martinez?
I think it would be best to have a total revision and keep the questions down to basically a yes or no answer, you know what I mean? That simplifies it for the voter. And I just, that's my personal feeling. I think that, when you go out there and vote and you see tons of information and you've got to take a lot of time to understand what that question really means. And it's got so much language in it, and I think it's just that much harder. I don't know. I strongly believe that it should be based on just a very limited question at the end. A yes or no, basically. And I think it would be stronger with the it's a personal feeling that I have.
So with that, that discussion, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we do a complete charter revision.
A motion by Councilor Casey. Second by Councilor Martinez. Roll call.
Councilor Montoya?
Clarification, Madam Clerk. So that means you want to vote for the whole charter?
Correct.
Yes.
Councilor Lee?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to our item number 7, request approval of a 1-year contract for fiscal year 25 with Lumo for automation of cybersecurity fabric of the city of Las Vegas. We have our interim finance director, Dominic Chavez, and IT manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today we're coming to ask to go into a contract for the next fiscal year with Lumo. They are a security fabric automation company. What they do, well, with all of the constraints on us and the IT department being as small as it is, we're finding that a lot more difficult to keep up with logs, security audits, all of this stuff. What Lumo does is it actually builds an automation into an AI automation into our system, which processes all those logs, reviews all the logs for us, and anytime that it sees any type of activity, any type of anomaly, it sends us an email report. At that point, we can actually react to that and do whatever we need to do to remediate the attack or whatever's causing issues in our network. Without this, it is increasingly difficult for the small IT department that we have to review hundreds and thousands of logs on a daily, even monthly basis. It's starting to get to be really difficult to do. We would like to bring this contract up for our next following fiscal year of 25. By agreeing to this, we will be covered under the temporary licensing until the contract is in place at the beginning of the fiscal year. So they are willing to cover us from now till the beginning of the fiscal year in order to make sure that we don't have any gaps in our security.
Mr. Penny, I have one question. You mentioned, so any cyber attacks, they don't actually like the attack, or just give you a log and then you're still responsible, IT's still responsible for it?
Yes. Yeah, the IT department will still have to do any kind of remediation. There is automated remediation built into the system. Anytime that there is any kind of attack on any entity that is using the Lumo product, their definitions are automatically updated, and they send those out to all of the customers, which in turn automatically updates our firewalls, our domain servers, all of that stuff gets automatically updated with the new definitions. So it doesn't eliminate zero-day attacks, but it narrows them down quite a bit.
The other question that I had on that, for instance, I know city schools not too long ago, I think the county, a couple of years ago, they had ransomware attacks. Basically, were requesting ransom in order to get all the data back. So in that case, would this program eliminate that, or?
It wouldn't eliminate it, but it does aid in us stopping it and seeing any kind of anomalies coming in. There is no 100% way of stopping them. The best we can do is do our due diligence to make sure that we cover as many known vulnerabilities that we have.
And one last question. Insurances, let's say this happens, you never get a report. Bypass them, they don't catch it, or you didn't put it in your report. Any liabilities or risks you would be responsible for if you didn't catch it?
They do have some liability. They do have some liability stuff built into it. It is not a huge liability that they do take on, but they do have some liability built into it, where they will help us recover any of our assets that we need to do.
Councilors?
Mayor.
Councilor Martinez?
The only question I had, Kenny, was, what is the financial cost for this? And I know that it's not placed on the agenda here.
The cost for the annual, it would be $18,912.60.
Okay, no,
Would you repeat that, please?
18,000 960?
912.60.
912.
I guess it's a good price or a fair price to pay for. We're almost getting there, I guess. I mean, it's, like you said, you can't be 100% foolproof, so, I mean, it's understandable. And that's not just this organization, it's plenty, everybody that's out there, but it's important to know what the cost of it is for myself. Thank you. Sure. How many assists do you get per month on this? I mean, you get a 380 assists per year, but what's normally what you request for on the assists? What's a city our size normally request?
That's our asset size. That's how many endpoints we have within our network. That would be our computers, our servers, all of that stuff.
And is this installed in the existing system, or do you need additional space for this?
No, this is installed. Okay.
And where is this money coming from? Because it's not only the 18,912, but also the 47,629.
No, that is if we were to do a 3-year contract. But because of state procurement and everything, we're doing annual, so that way we have an annual renewal.
Where's this one?
And Councilor, this would be for fiscal year 25, so it'd have to be a new budget item to be presented during the budget cycle.
And one last question, do you have a backup system right now?
Yes.
For your system?
Yes.
So anytime power's outage, you have a backup?
Yeah. Power outages are something different. We do not have any control over the power outages, and then also we don't have backups at some of our locations, power backups, generators.
Right, so you don't have a backup generator.
Correct.
So if there's a power outage, you're out.
Yes.
Okay.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion to approve a 1-year contract to renew. A second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Pro Tem Muflahi. Get you to the contract. Roll call.
Okay.
Counselor Martinez,
Yes.
Counselor Casey,
Yes.
Counselor Montoya,
Yes.
Counselor Ivey.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mayor Council.
Moving on to our next item, 8, introduction of the 2 selected applicants considered for police chief. Each applicant is allowed 5 minutes to speak. Mr. Mayor, do you want to introduce them to come up?
Yes, well, those I'll introduce them individually again. We opened up our police chief, I believe, we started in November.
Yes.
We opened up the position in November. We allowed applicants to apply until the beginning of March. And at this time, we did have applicants that had applied. We narrowed down the list to 2. So at this time, I asked the 2, Mr. Gila Marcus and Eric Padilla, to go ahead and give us 5 minutes to introduce yourself more or less to the community. We have you guys' applications, but I think it's more important that you introduce yourselves to the community. Anything you want to say for the 5 minutes, and then we'll have to have a really go to executive session, and then we want questions that we would have for you guys. So this time, Mr. Taylor Marcus, thank you. And if you don't mind, just because I know we have a lot of individuals online, just maybe pick up the line.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council.
Give me 1 second, Eric. So you have a Sergeant Taylor? Just go ahead, guys. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Thank you guys for this opportunity. I thought that we had to talk for 5 minutes or introduce ourselves.
Accurate, Mr. Mayor.
It's something that's hard to do, and I just really wanted to speak to you guys directly and not read anything off. And, give the opportunity to let everybody in the room or who's online hearing who I am. Just a short introduction. My name is Caleb Marquez. I'm a lifelong resident of Las Vegas, New Mexico. I attended West Las Vegas High School where I graduated from there. During my time in high school, I did multi-sport. I played multi-sports for West Las Vegas and participated in other programs as far as National Honor Society. One of the programs that I participated in was actually the City Run program at the time, which was the Explorers of the Fire Department. And that's where I got interested in public safety. I joined the Explorers in 2005. I did that until 2010. I served as the president of the Explorers program for several years. After high school, I did move. Couldn't really decide what I wanted to do until I did get into the Explorer program. From there, I joined the fire department at 18 years old. I served as a firefighter for several years. While at the fire department, I did promote to the rank of engineer. Got my EMT license and served as an emergency medical technician with the fire department. I did move over to the police department in 2015. I went to the police law enforcement academy, graduated in 2016. I served a few years on patrol as a patrol officer and transferred into the investigations division where I served as an investigator with the Las Vegas Police Department for several years. Then again, promoted to the rank of sergeant, served as a sergeant for several years. After sergeant, I was appointed to deputy chief by Antonio Salazar. I'm a lifelong native to this community, to this area, and really want to humanize the badge and take this opportunity to extend our community outreach. And I do have a big heart for public safety. It's something that's been part of my life for the majority of my life, from the Explorers program to currently. My family is from here, and I want to thank them all for the support that they come to give me, the community support, the calls and text messages, everything that I have received from this community. And just thank you to everybody, my wife and the kids. Couldn't do it without them. One thing that I do see is really moving this community forward, and that's always been one thing that I want to do, really making a push, whether it's from the Explorers to the fire department to now law enforcement. Just humanizing the badge and realizing that I am a northern New Mexico native and I do like to hunt and fish, and just like everybody else who lives in this area, I have hobbies of working on cars and really bringing that to the police department and changing the culture of this the environment that we're in, moving in a new direction. Just a short introduction of myself. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Chief. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Eric Padilla to say anything.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, citizens of our community. Let me thank you, first of all, for allowing me your time here and to introduce myself to you and to our community. Let me start by telling you why I'm here. I have applied to be your chief. The Las Vegas Police Department and our community is in need of top leadership within our department. I care about this department and this community. I retired after 20 years as a major with this department. I have got time and time again from the men and women of the police department when I retired saying, I wish it could have been our chief. I get this from our community members, and I have a lot to offer to this community, to this department, to this city, to this council. I pride myself being a dedicated and accomplished law enforcement professional with 20 years of experience in the criminal justice system. I have a steadfast dedication to my work, and I am prepared to put my background, talents, and commitment to the department's benefit and full potential as your next police chief. Having the knowledge of high liability issues, community policing strategies, changing community and workforce values, budget resource management, and technology systems and applications, demonstrating skills in leadership, communication, collaboration, decision-making, problem-solving, finance and resource management, strategic planning, and emergency management. Possessing the ability to establish trust and confidence, create and sustain an ethical organizational culture, enforce the laws fairly and impartially, apply critical thinking to problem solving, exercise good judgment in decision making, develop effective community relationships, provide visionary and adaptable leadership, and assess and respond to our community needs. Having more than 5 years of law enforcement and adaptable leadership in management and meeting all requirements set forth by the City of Las Vegas. Possessing advanced education in criminal justice and management training through the FBI National Academy. I began my police career in 2002 with the City of Las Vegas. I actively patrolled areas, enforced laws, met with citizens, gathered information for court appearances. That was my time as a patrol officer. In 2003, I was activated to active military duty to serve my country in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I served my country as a United States soldier and finished with an honorable discharge. In 2005, I became an agent with the Region 4 Narcotics Task Force, which comprised of northeastern New Mexico. I investigated hundreds of cases pertaining to narcotics investigations, supervised and led many multi-jurisdictional operations within Region 4. Seized thousands of dollars in U.S. currency, seized large amounts of narcotics, and successfully investigated and apprehended many offenders. In 2009, I became a canine officer for the Las Vegas Police Department. There I helped many agencies within New Mexico, both state, local, and federal, and obtained thousands of dollars in equipment and a new canine at no cost for the department. In 2010, I was promoted to the rank of sergeant within Region 4 Narcotics Task Force. I led and supervised undercover operations targeting narcotics trafficking within Region 4 and other parts of New Mexico. I applied for and helped administer local, state, and federal grants for the department on behalf of Region 4. In 2012, I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Once again, I supervised and led the Region 4 Narcotics Task Force. I served as a liaison with many specialized task force and oversaw the Office of Professional Standards, Internal Affairs Division for the Las Vegas Police Department. In 2015, I was promoted to the rank of police commander within the Las Vegas Police Department. I targeted evolving priorities including violent crimes, narcotics, gun violence, reduction, street impact operations, community engagement relationships, officer recruitment and training, budgeting, and technology equipment upgrades.
Mr. Mayor, time.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And to the public, I just want to thank these two gentlemen for being here first. I know I received so many calls, but why can't you just pick one as previous mayors had? And I just want to note that our new charter that was adopted a couple of years ago specifically states that the mayor shall bring two names to this governing body. Want to thank the governing body because, this is a decision that's very difficult for this community. And it's not just a one-man show. The mayor doesn't, shouldn't have that one big decision because it's public safety is very important for this community. So the two names here basically fulfilling what the charter requires, having two individuals presented to this governing body. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
So, Mr. Mayor, in accordance with New Mexico Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H2, limited personnel matters. Right. Discussion on the appointment for police chief.
I have a motion by Councilman Martinez. Have a second? Second by Councilman Levy. Roll call.
Councilor Montoya.
Yes.
Counselor Livarit, Counselor Casey,
Yes.
Counselor Martinez.
Yes.
We have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Livarit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Okay, she wants to.